Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Rodewald, and I am the local McDonald's franchisee for the Montcalm County area. Looking forward to sharing more about myself right after this.
Welcome to the Discover Montcalm Podcast, where we look at the communities, businesses, attractions, and people that make up Montcalm County. Here's your podcast host, Duane Weed.
Hello, my name's Duane, host and producer of the Discover Montcalm Podcast. And as you heard, Mike is in the house. And if you've ever wanted to know what it was like to run a McDonald's franchise, we are going to talk to Mike right now. So, Mike, thank you for coming by and sharing. I think I met you. I don't think I met you. I met you at the grand opening at your franchise here in Howard City. So welcome to my studio out in the country.
Thank you, Duane. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to chat.
Well, I kind of have a confession. I already know kind of the backstory, but I would like, and I'm sure you've told this story thousands of times. How did you get into owning your first McDonald's franchise?
Yeah, it's a good. I get this question a lot. As soon as anyone finds out what I do for a living, they say, "How in the world did you end up there? And how are you? How are you doing? What
Do you
doing?"
want some more fries?
Exactly. And they also always have menu suggestions that are always helpful too. So but my story starts with McDonald's before I was born. I like to tell it this way because it starts before I was born. My dad was a 16-year-old who had moved from Berrien County, Michigan, Southwest Michigan, a farm area, to the big city of Grand Rapids. His parents were divorced, and he was 16 years old and struck out looking for a good gas station job. He wanted to make some money of his own, and that's how he tells the story. He thought he'd started a gas station, but that day, fortunately for him, or unfortunately, I'm not sure which, but no one was hiring. So he took he walked into his local McDonald's on the north end of Grand Rapids and took a restaurant job. And so started working there at the age of 16 and worked through countless positions in the restaurants and worked his way up through management. And I think very soon started to realize that there was upward mobility.
Okay.
For him in his life at that point. And so he worked through a lot of different positions at the company, and he always had this dream of owning his own restaurants. And I think as a 16-year-old kind of getting started, I don't think hamburgers were his passion. I don't think that he realized it right away, but the longer he spent working in the restaurants and the more opportunity he saw, he wanted to go out and become his own boss. So he worked for the company for 23 or 24 years. And in 1996, he was given the opportunity to realize his dream. And he was given the chance to buy several restaurants here in the Montcalm County area. So his story is the model of American entrepreneurship,
exactly.
And I'm kind of drafting behind his, I've tried to, over the years, make it my own and expand it and grow it and put my own spin on it. But you can't tell my story without first telling his.
Because there's a starting point.
Right.
And I think every entrepreneur out there has a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
An idea, whether it was this epiphany that you wake up in the morning going, or in your case, you got to witness firsthand your dad going to work, and then, what do you mean you're going to buy a McDonald's? I'm sure that conversation, at the time was like, what does that mean?
Right.
So you've been surrounded by it. When did Mike put his name on your first McDonald's, and where was that?
So it was the location in Stanton, and it was October the 1st of 2014. So that's how long I've been an approved McDonald's owner-operator. Now, as the son of someone who owns a bunch of McDonald's, or used to own a bunch of McDonald's, McDonald's is not one to just, hey, your dad does this, so here's the keys to your restaurant, right? So
there's a vetting process.
They put you through quite a bit of tests and tribulations, and just they really want to. With a global brand, there's a lot at stake, and they really go through a lot of effort to make sure that they're putting people in these restaurants that not only understands the operations but knows that we're in the people business, and we
Right.
and we have to take care of the people who are taking care of our customers, and value the, someone who values the community relationships and tries to be a really good partner.
That was something that I was, as you were describing that, I'm thinking that you are boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know the community, because I would think that owning a restaurant in Montcalm County, in any of the cities that you have them, townships, villages, whatever, is a lot different than being downtown Detroit or in another state or even in another country. That you have to also kind of be boots on the ground. What will this community take? Is it something that we will be a good fit?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that that's all part of the branding statement, but also doing a creative brief to make sure that, is this where we need to be?
Mm-hmm.
So Stanton was your first, I'm putting my name on this one, ching, now I own my franchise.
That's right.
And I'm sure, did your dad at the time give you a lot of advice, or did he kind of say, hey, I did my mistakes, go make your own?
With as he had decades and decades of experience, right? He knew the answer to most questions, and I think he was always there for me if I needed to run a situation by him, or if I wanted to get his perspective on something. But especially later on in his career, he got to the point where I think he realized, like, well, this is different when I started in 1974, and the people, the customers have changed, employee base is different. They people respond to different,
right,
different things, right? And so I think that while he did everything he could to help guide me in the right direction, I think he was in as much of a learning mode during that time at kind of the latter end of his career, because I think there were things that I brought to the business. I should mention too, I have a brother in the business as well. He owns a couple of the restaurants in the Montcalm County area, and I think that we offered a little bit of a different, more of a fresh perspective on how to operate one of these restaurants in a more modern time. Some people with maybe hopefully he's not listening, maybe with a little more youth than he had at the time.
And who knew that there'd be a pandemic thrown in there?
Oh, yeah.
And totally changed the landscape of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you've ran yours since 2014, and at the current time, we're recording this in July of 2026, and I like to say that because it gives a perspective of somebody that might see this in a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
But at this particular time, how many franchises do you have? And I will mention here that it's MLW Management Incorporated is the company that you run.
Correct.
You said you got an office in Greenville, you've got an office in Mount Pleasant, but your vehicle happens to be, and then all of these stores. So how many stores do you currently franchise?
So there's 11 in total that MLW Management Incorporated is responsible for and owns and operates independently. I bought 4 from my dad. My dad had as many as 8. Eric is his name, Eric Rodewald, and he had as many as 8. He sold over the course of a lot of years. He sold 4 to me, and he sold 4 to my brother Drew. And since buying those 4 from my dad, I've just expanded myself by going out and when another franchisee retires, or maybe McDonald's Corporation wants to sell a corporate-owned restaurant, they've come to me with those opportunities, and I've the ones that are a good fit geographically, the ones that can work for what I envision from a community standpoint, are the ones I've capitalized on over the years, and then of course the most recent one in Howard City, we grew to number 11 there with a brand new brand new developed site. So a lot of exciting stuff has happened over my career in the last 12 years since becoming an owner-operator, as opportunities have presented themselves. And I've always kind of looked at an opportunity to me, it's never really been about like, well, I got to go out and make more money or achieve this number or that thing. It's really just about the test I try to put it through is am I the right person to go in and make a difference in this community or with this employee base? Like, am I the best person for that? Is it more restaurants because I want to provide better employment opportunities and growth opportunities for the management staff in my organization. I mean, it mainly, I put it through screens like that. Am I able to have the kind of impact that I want to have, and at the same time, have an organization that has a lot of resources for the staff and the customers that come in, but also making sure that I'm still known, and I'm not just some person at the top of at the top of an organization chart. I want to be known in my restaurants with the staff and the customers.
Okay. Well, we're going to learn more about why Howard City right after this.
The Discover Montcalm Podcast thanks West Michigan Technology and Design Solutions, M1063 WGLM, DW Video, Blueberry Podcast Platform, and Business Growth Engine. Thank you for your support.
Welcome back to the Discover Montcalm Podcast. We're talking with Mike. He owns 11 McDonald's franchises, and he just opened up one here in my town, Howard City. And I'd like to know, okay, this was built from scratch. Mm-hmm. It was ground up from the standpoint of you and McDonald's eyes. What makes a community a place that you say, I want to put one here? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how you decided on Howard City.
So Howard City, to have this conversation, we kind of have to go back about probably 8 or 10 years. I remember distinctly having a conversation with Randy Heckman, who I think he's in his role as the city manager at the time, or village manager for Howard City, and he had asked the question. We worked together. He did some work for us in Lakeview, and I knew him, and he had said, look, what do we got to do to get one in Howard City? We'd love some development. The community's growing. It's a vibrant community. And at the time, I loved the idea. And at the time, I pitched it to McDonald's Corporation, because the people who actually, I can't just pick a place and say, I want to put one here. They really have probably some screening and some science,
just like they had to screen you.
Exactly.
Now is this, we talked a little bit about it in the first half, that it is literally, is the community going to be able to handle us?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And it's we don't come in quietly, as you know, a big brand like McDonald's. And so they look at population and the demographics. They look at proximity to highways and other commerce that's around. All of those, they're counting rooftops, I'm sure. They're looking at they're just looking at all this analytics that I'm probably not intelligent enough to analyze. But
it's important, because at the end of the day, corporate wants to make money, which means you have to make money, which you have to have enough to pay the staff.
Exactly.
I mean, it's definitely one of those things. So 8-10 years ago, you and Randy talked. Fast forward to when you thought, I think corporate's going to think this is a little bit better idea.
At the time, it was all of our money. It's not that they didn't think it was a good idea back then. It's just all of the money of the franchisees and all of the money of our corporate partners was really tied up in the modernization of our existing portfolio. So fast forward a few years to your point. A couple of years ago, McDonald's declared that, hey, we're gonna be a growth company, and in order to be a growth company, you have to have more locations this year than you did last year, right? That's I think probably the definition of that. And so they started to look at pockets and sites to grow, and they started, I think, in some of the most obvious places like larger towns and things like that. And I was having a conversation with my franchising lead counterpart at the corporation a couple of years ago, maybe 18 months ago now. And
so that would have been around 2024?
Early 2024. I mean, it was like winter of 2024. And he had said, do you have any opportunities for us to grow in your patch? We'd like to see you get bigger, grow your influence, grow your impact as a franchisee. And I said, I think you should take a look right here. And I pointed to a place on the map. And while I didn't have all the data and the analytics, I knew the community of Howard City. I knew people who lived here. And I know that, when you start looking at the formula that we've I think worked really hard to get right in Stanton and in Lakeview and Edmore and Greenville and Carson City and other areas like right in the Montcalm County area, I think, Howard City could be a really great fit, not only geographically for us, but from a community standpoint. And then I remembered the conversation with Randy, and I remember thinking, okay, if it's something that the community wants, let's try and deliver on that. So,
Okay.
But then McDonald's goes through their whole process and they underwrite everything. And I got a call probably 3 weeks later and he said, we're going to build one here. We'd like you to be the franchisee. And I said, let's do it.
Okay. So you come into Howard City, find a piece of land. That building actually went up fairly quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from clearing the land to the actual, I'm sure that, McDonald's has built one or two. They already have a footprint.
Yep.
They already have, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's the size. And they've got crews that come out and just build. So that's now happening recently was it the early July or the end of June that we had the grand opening?
It was June 25th was our grand opening.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like just yesterday.
It does, right?
As we get farther and farther away. But it was interesting to see the people. You had a VIP event, which you were gracious to invite me. It was nice to, catch up with Randy and all the different people for the, Bruce from the chamber and that type of thing. But actually to see the behind the scenes. One question, and you talked about corporate has a brand. One thing that's always amazed me personally is, okay, it doesn't matter what town, and not that I'm a world traveler, but I would assume the same goes for overseas. The attention to detail to make sure that the hamburger that you had in London is the same hamburger that you have in Texas as in Howard City, Michigan. How, can you give us a little behind? How does they really make that happen?
It's incredible. We have, I think you had said when you talked about the development piece, there's, McDonald's, they've got this down from a corporate standpoint. They've done it like 40,000 times around the world, right? So they do that from a development standpoint. It was an incredible process from Howard City, from putting that restaurant there. It also helped to have just incredible partnership from Michael Falcon and his team
at the Village.
They were just, I said this during the grand opening too, and I don't think I've ever felt more welcomed into a community than Howard City welcomed our brand. And I think it started with his leadership, with Michael Falcon's leadership. It was just incredible to have a team of partners along with our contractors who just, again, they haven't done it 40,000 times, that particular contractor, but he's done, the person who, the company who built that restaurant, they're now kind of on their, I guess would be the third generation of that company. From a leadership standpoint,
right.
The original founder of that company built restaurants for Ray Kroc back in the 70s and things like that. So a lot of longevity with our partners there.
So the same thing goes with the food.
Exactly.
I mean, because it isn't like they go, hey, Mike, we're going to have a store in Howard City and just make hamburgers however you want. You don't have that luxury.
No, you're back to that part of the question. There is there's a saying that McDonald's we say a lot to franchisees is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So you get an awful lot of support and coaching and nudging from the company. There's not a great deal of autonomy that we always have. So from an execution standpoint, there is a way to mop the floor at McDonald's. There is a way to sweep the floor. There is a way to, they're after this many seconds, pull the car forward. Now, do we execute with perfection every day? No, we only employ human beings at this point. So we do make mistakes. We do, we have our days where we don't deliver. But
that's the fun part about business.
Exactly.
I mean, if you get the order wrong, I would think, okay, and I've worked enough in AI for things that I do to know it's not right.
Right.
There still has to be a human element, but it comes down to customer service.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get it wrong, fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually, oh, I'm sorry. But, it has always floored me that all of the fast food, the chains, the food's the same no matter where you go.
Yeah, it's something that we there's a lot of operational. People think of McDonald's and they think, well, that's not a serious, endeavor, but we under the arches, we take it incredibly seriously. We agonize over seconds here or there. How can we save? How can we reduce the time? How can we improve the quality? We're always tweaking, and it's like the people at McDonald's headquarters are just like a bunch of mad scientists trying to identify formulas and just different things that can keep a customer coming back and really the quality of our food, I think, is sometimes one of the best kept secrets, unfortunately for us. We don't talk enough about the painstaking efforts that goes into our supply chain and keeping things consistent and deliverable for you every single day. Products that taste great and can be affordable.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do at this point is, and I kind of like the fact that, from a franchise standpoint, that we are, anybody that owns a franchise knows that there's rules and you got to play within the rules. And it's up to you how you play within those rules. And you're in, I have noticed that places like yours are very involved in the community. Mm-hmm. You become, like a partner. And I know because of the World Cup happening on your grand opening, you were giving away soccer balls to the Tri-County High School mm-hmm. and, for the soccer program. But it's that little attention to detail that you don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. I'm sure corporate says be as community as you can, but maybe here's some suggestions, but you got to come up with your own little things. So you're now at 11, mm-hmm. And you caught me on a question earlier, because we just got done talking about how strict they are on the menu. Mm-hmm. Yet you say that a lot of times people will come to you with menu ideas. How does that work? And does it ever come true? Or is it like, I'm sorry, I can't help you?
Yeah. So usually it's menu item. Sometimes it's menu item ideas, but usually it's, hey, can you bring back this menu item?
Okay.
So you may remember we used to have we have it now, but years back we had a product called the snack wrap, and mm-hmm. we have them today. But the story goes they go away for 9 years because we were trying to simplify our menu. We were we're looking at it and we're thinking, well, this is only a small percentage of our sales. Let's try to make things easier for our teams mm-hmm. in the kitchen. And we pulled them away, and pretty much, the internet revolted. I mean, for years, and we would make a post about, the Ronald McDonald House, and somebody would comment, "Bring back the snack wraps," and so it took us a while. But we in every party I would go to, every school event or whatever, when are you going to bring back the snack wraps? And it took us a little while, but that's a perfect example of something that last year, about a year ago this week, actually, we brought them back into the restaurants after consumers really, getting after us about it and saying that's something we really want back. And so
bottom line, corporate,
yeah,
through, the general public, but also probably from their franchise mm-hmm. holders, say, hey, people are asking about this.
Yeah.
And you ask long enough, and sometimes things don't happen as quick as you'd like them to happen, mm-hmm. but that's, because I'm like, okay, how do you add food to a menu that's already there? So I'm glad that you kind of put a twist to that. It's not that, it's more like, okay, we used to have this back in the day.
Right.
Can we bring it back, please? Mm-hmm. So as we're at the point of wrapping this up, because what I'd like to do is, if in a year or so something changes, you're more than welcome to get with me and come back.
Terrific.
I'd love to, because Discover Montcalm is about Montcalm County, so it doesn't have to be Howard City. I know the focus somewhat has been on Howard City because it's got that new car smell. Mm-hmm. It's shiny, and it's got as I was told, a milkshake or a shake machine that never breaks. and I know that's probably just a joke, but you got the latest technology in this McDonald's.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm sorry, we might joke about it, but whenever things are used on a daily basis, things do break.
Right, they do.
But why does it happen the car before me when it's my turn to get my shake?
I'll tell you what, when I solve that problem, I'm gonna be a very happy man. It's true. We have it's a new unit, and you wouldn't think, you buy a new car off the line, you don't expect to be back at the dealer, right? But unfortunately, that joke that I made did backfire a bit on us.
Well, but it is one of those things as well that it made a lot of people laugh.
Yep.
Because your car doesn't always start when you go out in the morning. So, the fact that, I'm not going to get my shake today, I'm sure we'll survive and we'll find a way around it. So as I wrap this up, I know that I invited you on, and when we talked that day at the event, I kind of said it was like a conversation that we'd have sitting in a restaurant. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to close us out with as we wrap this particular podcast up?
I think you covered it well. I really enjoyed the time being here with you, and I appreciate you inviting me on. I think the biggest thing that I think about sometimes, when it comes to McDonald's, I think people do think big corporation, right? They think, well, this is the Golden Arches, and they're right to think that. It is a large corporation, but the actual restaurant business is really one made up of a bunch of franchisees like me, and that helps us to get a little closer to the community. So if ever we don't get something right, I mean, we're right here and we're working really hard to try and make that work. When it comes to McDonald's, they're trying to push the overall brand forward. They have, they're a large real estate holder. They're a big corporation, but at the end of the day, the ones that are here trying to get it right for you, we're local business owners that are really doing everything we can to deliver on the promises that we make. So if we ever don't get something right, to your point, what you said earlier, let's have the conversation. We're going to work really hard to try and get that right next time.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. And if somebody wants to get in touch with, like the Carson City McDonald's or the Greenville or the Howard City, do you have a social platform that they could go on and follow their local restaurant?
Absolutely. Yeah. The best way is currently on Facebook. So if you were to just go and search McDonald's Stanton, it comes right up. So we post pretty actively on just new and relevant updates, and we also can get feedback from customers that way too. If there's something you want to let us know about in the comments, we're watching it all the time and happy to react to whatever we see.
Sure. Plus, it's nice to know if you're having a special open house or if you're having a special, it's a great way to communicate with people today. As much as I have a love-hate relationship with technology, and there's times that I'm wondering why my phone hasn't ended up outside of my vehicle, but I have that restraint. So again, thank you. I look forward to somewhere in the future that you come back and you can kind of update us maybe on something else that is happening, within the county.
No, I absolutely, Duane, I appreciate the time today. This is a lot of fun, and look forward to coming back and chatting when we can.
Oh, I appreciate it. And we're less than a mile away from your Howard City branch. So, once they get the road paved there, it'll be better. But, that's just the way life works.
That's all right.
You can follow the Discover Montcalm Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as going to discovermontcalmpodcast.com. We're on Pandora, Apple, and iHeart. And if you go to discovermontcalmpodcast.com, you can grab the RSS feed and put it in your favorite, podcast browser, and you can catch every episode that goes out. One like the one we just got done doing here with Mike, with McDonald's and the franchise. if you have a story, whether it's a community story, a personal story, your family has grown up here, you got a barn in the backyard that's got history, I'd love to chat with you. Get with me at 231-250-9624. My name's Duane, host and producer. And like I always do, remember to buy and shop locally.
The Discover Montcalm podcast is produced by content creator Duane Weed at DW Video and Multimedia LLC at dwvideo.com or call 231-250-9624.